We are going to be comparing solar powered generators like the one behind me to gas powered generators as a home or just a backup power solution. You see, I'm a radiologist, which means to say I look at and interpret medical imaging like x-rays, CT scans, MRIs, ultrasound. I take that information, put it in a report, and give it to your doctors so they know how to treat you. Hospitals and ER doctors rely on me to let them know what's going on with your medical imaging, and because of my workflow, I'm heavily dependent on my home office, my computers, my internet, the electricity that runs everything to do my job. That means electricity is my lifeblood when working on time-sensitive cases late into the night. So when the power went out in my neighborhood the other night, I quickly switched to backup power using my Anchor Solex products, which literally powered me through the rest of my shift. After that experience, you'd think that I'd be all in with these solar power generators as a home backup solution over those gas powered generators that are smelly and loud, but you'd actually be wrong. And in this video, I'm going to share with you how I went down the solar generator power rabbit hole only to find and come to the realization that changed my perspective on these solar and gas powered generators as backup power options. With an aging power grid and the threat of severe weather events and terror activity, the risk and frequency of power outages is rising. Having a reliable backup power is essential for maintaining our daily lives. When the power went out in my area for just a few hours, it made me realize just how dependent we are on electricity and how vulnerable we could be if the grid ever failed. I always assumed our electrical grid was sophisticated and secure, but during my research I stumbled upon a 60-minute episode that revealed just how fragile it is. Our grid is constantly under threat from natural disasters and potential attacks. I'll link that episode in the comments below. Everyone should watch it. It got me thinking though, what if the power went out in my region for a few days, weeks, or even months? At first it might feel like a camping trip, but prolonged outages would be devastating. As the late comedian George Carlin pointed out, it wouldn't take much to push us back into barbaric times. No electricity means no lights, no fuel, no water, and no functioning computers, which run everything. In that scenario, even the police and military might not even be there to help. You'd be on your own. Most grid-tied solar systems won't help when the grid is down. Those solar panels on rooftops often send energy into the grid during the day, but at night, when the sun isn't shining, you're still dependent on grid power. If that grid fails, so does your power, unless you have a way to store that energy. If emergency preparedness is your goal, whether it's solar panels or gas tanks filled with fuel, you'll need a way to store that energy for when the grid is down. Let's compare the pros and cons between solar and gas-powered generators and explore what the perfect backup system looks like based on my recent experience with both of these systems. The newest tech are these solar-capable generators. They're basically big battery banks with a lot of tech packed in. Some are portable while others are built into your home. We've reviewed a bunch of them over the years and they come in super handy. For example, earlier this summer, my daughter's annual summer camp that she and her friends look forward to each year abruptly closed days before she was set to arrive because of a bedbug infestation. So we changed our plans, and in just a few days we were able to find a campground that could accommodate 50 girls. We went from a camp experience that was going to be in cabins, a full kitchen, running water, and electricity to being out in a field where there was no running water, no plumbing, and no electricity. Needless to say, it was going to be a very different experience. But I brought all the batteries that I'd reviewed in the past to help with the transition, and they played a huge part of the whole experience at the camp. For example, from powering the Airstream where the leader slept to running the soft serve machine, we were a battery powered camp and we had a great time. But first, let's go over the pros and cons of these solar power generators like these here by Anchor, these Solex generators. These things really did help and power my office when the power went down. Okay, first pro, unlimited power. As long as there's sunlight, these solar power generators can harness the power of the sun. If the grid were to ever go down indefinitely, with the right equipment, you can make your own solar power. While most people running on gas can't make their own gasoline. The second big pro is the noiseless operation. This is a huge advantage, especially when used indoors. And another big advantage of this silent operation is it doesn't draw attention to you during times of crisis. Number 3, no fumes. Solar generators can be safely operated indoors as they produce no harmful emissions. The next pro, no fuel storage needed. There's no need to store fuel, avoiding the risk and hassles associated with fuel management. And the last pro, minimal maintenance. Solar generators require minimal maintenance, typically involving only periodic charging and discharging of the battery. Let's go to the cons. The big one is the big upfront cost. Initial costs are higher compared to gas generators, though prices are decreasing with technological advancements. The next con, sunlight dependency. Charging depends on sunlight availability, which can be inconsistent or limited depending on where you live and the time of year. And the next con, variable solar panel efficiency. Solar panels don't operate at full capacity due to various factors like weather condition, placement angles, and so that will affect how much energy you're able to harness. And finally, there's low power output on cloudy conditions. Extended periods without sufficient sunlight can really reduce your power generation, which can be a huge bummer if you're relying on that solar power for energy. While solar certainly helped keep some of the batteries charged at camp, the portable 400-watt panel I was using could not keep up with the power consumption, and a lot of heavy power usage such as the air conditioning in the Airstream could only be done for long periods of time by the gas generator. So here are my pros and cons of gas generators. Number one, it's on-demand power. Filling up the generator with gas and really super easy. So recharging a gas-powered generator really easy, especially if you've got a gas station nearby. Next up, lower upfront cost. Gas generators are just cheaper. They've been around longer. They've had a lot longer to streamline their manufacturing and their products. And so they're just going to be a lot cheaper than the solar power generators and the solar panels that you're going to need to get. And next up, fuel options. Dual fuel or tri-fuel generators offer flexibility in fuel choice. My neighbor, who's concerned about the grid going down indefinitely, upgraded his home system so that he has a dual power generator that's powered both by natural gas and gasoline. Let's talk about the cons. First and foremost, and most obvious, it's going to be the noise. Gas generators are loud, and imagine yourself in a time of a prolonged power outage. A gas generator, a loud gas generator, is just going to be screaming to neighbors or unscrupulous folks, hey, here is a source of power, come steal me. The next con is the fumes. These generators produce fumes that can be hazardous and even deadly if not managed properly. Each year, especially after a huge crisis or emergency requiring people to power up their generators, there are people that get sick from carbon monoxide poisoning, and there are even people that die from carbon monoxide poisoning. Next con, fuel dependency. You're limited to the fuel that you have on hand. Post-disaster fuel availability can be a significant issue. In times of crisis, when the grid goes down, electricity will be limited, and so will the power needed to run the pumps to pump that gasoline. And lastly, maintenance. Regular maintenance is required to keep gas generators operational. This includes tune-ups and repairs, which needs technical skills. So when the grid goes down, solar generators like these can be used indoors, and they can harness power from the sun using panels outside. Gas generators must be kept outside due to carbon monoxide risks. So what's the ideal backup power solution? I think it's a combination of both, if you can afford it. And here's why. This dual approach provides flexibility and extends the usability of each system. For instance, instead of using a gas generator and running it 24/7 to power all your devices, it can be used to charge the solar generator batteries like we did at camp. And then those batteries can be used while the generator rests, optimizing fuel use and providing power during prolonged outages. So here are my final thoughts. Before making this video, I thought these high-tech solar power generators were going to be way better than gas generators. But after doing my research, I found that it's clear both solar and gas powered generators have their advantages and their disadvantages. While the best choice depends on individual circumstances such as geographic location and budget, for me, the best setup is a combination of both gas and solar. And that's why I'm in the market for a good gas-powered generator and more solar panels to beef up my system for when the grid goes down.